Here we go. 3 basic layers of the skin. Again, some books will list only these first 2 as belonging to the skin officially. In the epidermis we have epithelial tissue, and in the dermis and hypodermis we have connective tissue. The epidermis specifically is stratified squamous tissue. The dermis consists of 2 layers, the papillary layer, the more superficial one, with predominantly areolar tissue, and the reticular layer with not reticular but dense, irregular connective tissue. Here's our diagram. You want to spend some time on this. We certainly examined almost all these terms here, besides the layers here, and here. We have the papillary layer here of the dermis, Meissner's corpuscle also in the dermis, oil gland associated with the hair follicles, erector pili muscle, again associated also with the hair. Let's see, sweat glands, which are separate, and a Pacinian corpuscle, which is another nerve receptor. I had added here in one of the notes that in the epidermis you have a Merkel cell in the base of the epidermis. So these were the 3 touch receptors or pressure receptors: Merkel, Meissner's, and Pacinian. Again, Merkel registering a light touch, Meissner's a little bit deeper touch, and Pacinian, we said, a much stronger squeeze or pressure. This was mentioned already, the tissue type. Certainly the keratinocyte is the predominant cell there, which makes the protein keratin. Melanocytes located in the basal cell, which produce melanin, and also mentioned were Merkel cells and Langerhans cells. And those are all mentioned here. Layers of the epidermis. This is another possible diagram for tomorrow in order. Again, these were your dead cells filled with keratin. These were the waterproofing granules were found in here. In the spiny layer, in the granulosum. In the spiny layer we find the Langerhans cells, the immune cells. In the basal layer we find Merkel cells as well as melanocytes. And the other thing we mentioned is this is the live, young, actively growing region. So we go through those layers one at a time now, so we repeat. Melanocytes and Merkel cells here, the youngest cells here, youngest keratinocytes, and again these are live, active. In the spinosum we have the Langerhans cells. Recall that in this layer was where you get a squamous cell carcinoma as well, which was mentioned in the second power. In the granulosum you have these waterproofing lipids which are produced. In the stratum corneum you get a buildup of keratin here, and again most of the thickness of the epidermis is here, and again these are dead husks of cells. Now we're down into the dermis. These are some of the generic cells you find in areolar connective tissue. Here are your 2 layers, the more superficial one and the deeper. The papillary layer contains predominantly areolar connective tissue. We talked about the dermal papillae and how they help to produce your fingerprints, and the fact that no 2 people have the same fingerprints, even identical twins, due to the different environment in a womb. In this layer you also find your Meissner's corpuscles. Layer is the most of the thickness of skin is here. Your dense, irregular, your very strong, tough connective tissue. Again, we brought up the metaphor of the leather coat, which is not a metaphor, it's actually accurate. epidermis, which is mostly adipose tissue. Some of the accessory organs in the skin besides skin are sweat glands, which prevent overheating with the production of sweat. And sweat, we said, although it's mostly water, has some other odds and ends in it. The sebaceous glands or oil glands. These oil glands are associated with hair, and the oil they secrete is called sebum, and this is a waterproofing substance, as well as a substance that's going to keep your skin soft and lubricate it. Hair has a different form of keratin. These are dead cells again. They're colored by the melanocytes found at the base. Are made modifications of the epidermis, even though they push down into the, you would say, the dermis, they're actually structurally made from tissue of the epidermis. And we said these were the main three functions of skin: protection, temperature regulation, and sensation. And storage place for blood, and a limited amount of waste is secreted in sweat. That's it. Good luck.